Hey guys, welcome to another time-lapse Blender tutorial, and this time we're going to create this house here. This is the reference image I used, and I think I got close to it. So get this here. Yeah, so this is the house. Let me turn on a material mode here, and you can see we have UV unwrapped it and added the textures there. I haven't done anything on the inside, and I didn't add those glasses there because it would increase the render times, and I wanted to do a fast render. But yeah, so I'll be uploading this model to CG Trader if you want to get it, and I'll also be adding a copy of it to my Patreon account. If you want to, you can also find it there. But yeah, let's dive into the time lapse, and you see how I did this. Okay, so I begin by adding a cube. That will be the first floor, the down floor, or whatever you want to call it, and then added some loops for the extrusion of this protruding room. And let me first. I usually like turning on ambient occlusion because if you are in orthogonal view, you can easily see where the extrusions and insets are. So you saw I added that. I just added that there, and then I'm adding loops. Let's add some loops for the doors and windows. Yeah, and you can also add a loop and then use Ctrl B to bevel that loop into two loops that you can use to extrude. That's what I just done there, and yeah. So now let's delete some faces for the windows and the doors. And now, because I didn't have a loop there, I just selected the rings, the edges that make up that ring to create a loop between there, and then used Ctrl B to create a bevel loop around there for those extra windows, side windows. So what I wanted to do is have the base floor separate from the top floor, so that if you wanted to create a different house with just only one floor without a second floor, you can just use this model and then add a roof on top of it, and you'll be done. So that's why you see me separating these two floors. Yeah, so and now this will be the profile for the window frames. You'll see me. What I did is I first tried to do this using the curves, but I found that would be a lot of work, and it will also create some extra polygons that I didn't want to use. So instead I switched, and I used the profile directly with a mesh to create the frames for the window and the frame for the doors. You can see me now here. I scrapped the idea of using a curve, and now I'm using the mesh directly and creating the profile of the mesh. So I created one side and then duplicated that side I had created using Shift D, and then mirrored the duplicate to the other side by using Ctrl M on the keyboard. And again, I'm doing it here for the Z axis. To make a slope of the edge you have selected so that it's slanting instead of being straight, you can use the shortcut Ctrl Shift Alt S. That will give you that slanting slope, that slant, what I'm doing exactly there. So you just use the shortcut, I think it's called shear. So you use the shortcut Ctrl Alt Shift S, and then X or Y for the axis you want to shear that edge loop. And now I'm just merging these face vertices. Now I've just duplicated what I've done there, and removed the side panels, and so I'm also using the mirror modifier to help to model the other side of the windows, and yeah. Now I'm creating this side window there, so let's rotate it about 45 degrees to match. So if you press comma on your keyboard, you can change the pivot point of your axis. You can change the pivot point to the cursor so that you can rotate the object from the So to straighten up an edge loop, I just select that loop and then scale it in the axis you want to scale it. So if you want it to be straight horizontally, you can select the loop and then scale it using S and then hit the axis. For example, you can hit Z to scale it in the Z axis, and for example, if you want to scale it in the Z axis, you do S and then the axis Z and then 0 to scale it, to scale all the vertices 0 pixels in that axis. That's how you get a straight loop if it's not straight. So let's duplicate some of these windows and the first flow and duplicate it to the top like that. So we need to remove some of those features that are not on the second floor. The other thing you have to notice that the camera that was used to make the reference images I'm using had some perspective distortion, so you don't have to align everything directly as you see them in the reference image, because remember there is some perspective distortion there, and you don't have it when you're modeling in Blender unless you're viewing that directly from the camera, which I'm not most of the time. So I'm just removing some loops that I don't find necessary. let's work on the roof. So because we have these two rooms or whatever they're called, so I use the mirror modifier so that I can model one side and then the mirror modifier does the other side. So you can see you can always reuse whatever you did already and make a few modifications there, and so to make it just fit on the model you want, on the part you're creating. Again, remember, not everything has to match up because the reference image has some perspective distortion that you don't have when you're modeling, unless you're modeling directly in a camera with the same settings as what was used to take the reference image you're using. I'm just merging a few parts here and there to make the roof more accurate.
Next level.
Extruding the smaller roof. These roofs have their own ceilings. That's what I'm doing right now. And I'm just extruding the outer edges and then scaling them in to make that ceiling. And then deleting any extra faces or any extra polygons we don't need. So I saw here that the roof was going too low, and yeah, so I pushed it up a bit to match the line of the other floors. And this is why you don't want to follow the reference image precisely, because you see, this was because I tried to follow that, and at the behind room, the behind roof looked like it was below the other roofs, that when in reality it was not. That was caused by perspective distortion in the camera, and yeah, so I fixed it now, and I think it's better now. Yeah, so because I already have some doors that I created, and you can also get these doors on my CG Trader account if you want them. I just imported them into Blender, just so that I don't have to go through the process of modeling something that I already have. And if you have a library of things like this, they can really help you out and make your life easier. So you can you can make copies of what you have duplicated by using Ctrl R to repeat exactly what you have already done for you automatically. So now that we have the modeling part done, let's do some UV unwrapping so that we can start texturing. So you see that I tried out different ways to unwrap the model, and so I used different techniques. I used using seams and the unwrapping, and I also used the smart UVs sometimes. I also got some textures to use for the model. So now I'm setting up the materials. Because these are PBR textures, I just got every texture, the diffuse, specularity, metal, and roughness, and inserted them in their corresponding nodes to get what I wanted. So I'm also rotating the UVs so that they match the alignment, they match the direction of the tiles in the image. Okay, I'm going to speed this up a little bit more so that because it gets a bit repetitive here, and yeah. So again, if you want to find this model, if you want to get this model, you'll have it on. I will have it on my CG Trader account and also my Patreon account if you want to find it there. And yeah, for the most part, this is done. So I'll just let you watch the compositing as. Yeah, thank you. Make sure to leave a like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.